Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We need some help from you now. Come on, Scooby-Doo, I see you, pretending you got a sliver. You're not fooling me, 'cause I can see the way you shake and shiver. You know we got a mystery to solve, so Scooby-Doo, be ready for your act. Don't hold back.
Welcome to the Leftover Pizza Podcast. We're thrilled to have you join us for the very first episode of Leftover Pizza Bites.
That's right, Grimey. As many of you loyal listeners already know, we've made some changes to the show in recent months. Most notably, we've decided to make all of our bonus episodes free and available to everyone. We're moving away from our previous Patreon-only bonus show model.
So with Leftover Pizza Bites, we're offering bite-sized bonus content that might not warrant a full-length episode, but we think you'll still find entertaining and insightful. Basically, a hearty appetizer to tide you over while you wait for the main course.
That's right, so grab a slice or two, get comfortable, and let's dive into the first Leftover Pizza Bites installment. On today's menu, Grimey, we have 4 healthy servings, all from Scooby-Doo.
Man, I feel like this has been a long time coming that we finally covered some Scooby-Doo content. We might have touched on it a little bit here, there, and in between, but like, it's full-on Scooby-Doo, man.
I don't know how we managed to do it, Grimey, but we kind of challenged ourselves to maybe dig a little deeper and mention some weird or different picks that you don't hear people talking about very often, but they definitely deserve to be talked about because Scooby-Doo's been around for what, like 50 or 60 years now? We're coming up on that milestone, I think, of 60 years. And in that time, there's been so much. This is like one of those incredibly licensed properties where, like, if somebody has an idea to make something for Scooby-Doo, Warner Brothers just sees the money bags, like the money symbols rolling in, and they're like, fine, do it. I don't care. Like, if you make a bad product, we'll just bounce back and something else will come and take its place, and you'll forget about the bad product. So take a shot. Why not?
Yeah, you're right. Scooby-Doo has literally been everywhere. It's been around for a very long time, so obviously it's going to see all these different outlets, and we're going to talk about 4. What do you say we get into it?
Considering that I made you on our full show this month go first, I will take one on the chin for you, and I will put my best paw forward.
What do big kids want? More shots!
More tricks!
More height!
More food!
Big kids want to be treated like big kids.
So you can come to Burger King and get a Burger King Big Kids meal served your way with more great tasting food, fun, and of course, a cool toy.
Another Burger King Big Kids meal?
Hey, he's no trick-or-treater.
Meddling kids!
Glow-in-the-dark Scooby-Doo toys from the new video and DVD Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. One inside every Burger King kids meal you buy.
All right, Grimey, I'm going to ease you in on this episode. We only have 2 picks each, but my second pick is going to be very out of left field. So let's just lower you into the pool gently here, all right? Get you acclimated, and I'm going to start off with a very accessible pick that I think everybody can be on board with here, and that's the Burger King promo from 2000 when they did a toy line for Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders.
Oh, yeah. Man, this was one of my favorite eras of Burger King when they started their Big Kids meals.
Thank you. That's kind of my biggest takeaway here. Again, I said came out in 2000, so this specific promo ran from October 9th to November 5th, 2000. So it was right in the thick, in the heart of the Halloween season. And I, at this point, was in first grade. So I was kind of at the tail end, but still in the thick of my Scooby-Doo phase. Like, I've always loved Scooby-Doo, but I was really eating it up around this time. Anything Scooby-Doo, because this is also, obviously this is based off of an animated movie. This is when all of those straight-to-video animated movies are really starting to pop off.
Yeah, this is 2000?
2000.
The first 2 came out, 1998, 1999. So, like, just hopping off of that hype.
Yeah, we had Zombie Island. What was it? The
Witch's Ghost.
Ghost.
Yep.
There was this one, Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders, and then I believe after this they followed it up with, was it called Cyber Chase?
There was,
I think it was
Cyber
called
Chase, and then I feel like there was like an Ice Monsters one in there somewhere, like a winter one. But
I think so.
Yeah.
But that four movie run was really like banger
Yeah.
after banger after banger, and it very much appealed to kindergarten through like second grade me, because obviously it kind of crescendoed in the second grade when the live action movie came out. But I digress. We should be talking about what you had mentioned at the top of this, the Big Kids Meal. Basically, if you go back and you watch this commercial for this promo, Burger King is really, really pushing the Big Kids Meal hard.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, here's the thing. To me, Burger King had that cool factor about it that Wendy's and McDonald's were severely lacking at the time. And I don't know if that's just me, but the quote-unquote cool older kids in my life, that's where they wanted to be. They wanted to be at Burger King. They were getting more food. So they were getting, whatever it was, like 6 tenders or 8 tenders instead of like 4.
Right.
And then Burger King, they had the slightly spicy, to me, my kid mouth, nuggets, because it had flecks of black pepper in it. And it was like there was more food, and the commercials were like, yeah, this is what big kids eat.
Yeah.
And so to me, it was like, man, I could go to the place that's serving a big-ass meal that I might not be able to finish, but that doesn't matter, that the cool kids eat and get Scooby-Doo toys.
Oh,
this
yeah.
is like peak Burger King promo for me.
Yeah, it really is. And the Big Kids Meal came out in, I think, June 28th of 1999. So this is really like right in the heyday of the Big Kids Meal in 2000.
Yeah, peak Big Kids Meal. So let's actually jump into the toys themselves, because what a lineup we have here. We have 8 toys to this line, and obviously based off of Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. So all of these have an element of either they're running away from aliens or they're using a glow-in-the-dark element that I think is supposed to be representative of like the aliens and their tractor beam. I don't really know what they were going for, but hey, it's Halloween and glow-in-the-dark and Scooby-Doo. It all makes sense. It's the perfect combo.
So I never watched this, unfortunately. I'm going to make it a point to watch this. I promise you, Derek. I'm going to watch this at some point this Halloween season. But right now, I'm completely unaware. Were the other mystery gang, were they in there? Or was it just Shaggy and Scooby, like in this movie?
Oh, no, it's all of them.
It's all of them?
It's a traditional Scooby-Doo story.
Okay.
So the whole Mystery Inc. gang is there, but in this toy line specifically, I see why you might be a little confused, because it's really, really leaning heavily on the Scooby and Shaggy factor.
Which, in one hand, kind of surprises me, and in the other, it doesn't, because you can't really sell a Daphne and a Velma and a Fred as much as you can sell a Scooby and Shaggy. They're really the quintessential Scooby-Doo characters, so...
Yeah, I mean, they're the David Lee Roth and Eddie Van Halen of the Scooby-Doo gang, like, you might like Alex Van Halen, you might like Michael Anthony.
Fuck them.
But, you're not showing up for those guys, unfortunately. If you're listening, Michael Anthony, I'm sorry, it's just the truth, okay?
It's not us, it's you.
It's you, yeah. So we've got 8 toys here. Here are the names: Alien Attack Mystery Machine, Clip and Glow Scooby-Doo, Fright and Glowing Armor, Roll Around Alien, very creative on that one, on the naming there. The Scared Silly Shaggy, Scooby-Doo and Shaggy's Alien Ship Adventure, Scramblin' Scooby-Doo, and Speakin' Scooby-Doo. Those are our 8 toys from this line. Now, I don't have the full line. I don't know that you have any of these toys lying around, but I did send you a review video so that you could get a sense of what all these toys did. Did you have a chance to take a look at this line and see what all the gimmicks were?
Oh yeah, I dove deep into this, into the very great commercial. I'd have to say my favorite one is probably the Scooby and Shaggy. Was it called the Spaceship Adventure or something or other?
Yeah, the Alien Ship Adventure.
That
okay.
one's pretty awesome. I love it.
Maybe look up this toy line so you can get a sense of all of the actions of these toys. But it's funny that you said that the Alien Ship Adventure is probably your favorite. Because while it's not mine, I'll tell you mine in a second. I can tell you with certainty that as a kid, that would have been the toy that I was pining after. And why do you think that would have been the toy that I was going after?
It looks like it's a ride, right? Like it looks like it's like a ride from Universal Studios or something.
So the whole gimmick with this toy is that it looks like a big tree, like Grimey said, and this piece sits on the top, and then the whole thing spins around. So the reason that I would have wanted this as a kid, and I thought back, and I was like, this rang true throughout my whole childhood. I was this kid. Was because it was the biggest toy in the set.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know that I even would have thought that it was the most fun when I was a kid, but I always thought that I was getting more for my money that I wasn't spending if I got the biggest toy in the set when I went to fast food.
That makes sense.
Did you ever have that, or is that just me?
No, I totally agree with you, man. I can't think of any specific times off the top of my head, but I know for a fact I felt this way at least once or twice. I mean, you feel like shit after you went through that line and you're like, all right, what am I getting? What am I getting? And it's like the smallest one. And you're like, I didn't want this one. This one's stupid. It's not not anywhere near as big as the other ones.
It's funny because the smallest one might actually have the best gimmick, but to me, when I was growing up, it felt like I was getting the closest I could to a real toy if the toy was big. Like, again, it could have been the shittiest toy out of the lot, but if it was the biggest, I was like, all right, I got a real toy today when I went and I got my McNugget 4-pack. You know, it made me feel good. So that was yours. I can totally see it. It's fun. It's got some fun action. The one that I really liked, and I believe I actually even had as a kid, so I'm a little partial here. It's called the Roll Around Alien.
Yeah.
Where not a very good name, but it is exactly what it is. So in this movie, obviously the villains, the monsters are aliens, and they're these gnarly looking aliens in this movie. It's got I don't know, they've got these noodly looking heads. I can't even describe it, but they're very cool. It's a very cool monster design. And so the only way I can describe this toy, if you've never seen it before, is think of the spherical cars that they use in Jurassic World, the first Jurassic World, to drive around and look at all of the dinosaurs up close. It's like they took the alien and shoved it inside one of those Jurassic World balls. And the action is great. It's just a wind-up toy, but you pop out a lever, twist it up, and then push it back in, and then it just goes flying across the floor or whatever surface that you put it in. So it's basically like a hamster wheel, like a hamster ball.
Yeah.
But it's fun. I love it.
It's a neat little action feature. I thought it was cool. You could pop the little thing out, twist it, put it back in, and let her go. That thing's really awesome.
That's the key, because it was a little bit more advanced than just a standard wind knob on the back.
Right.
It had a cool, almost hidden feature. You needed to know that you have to pop out this one little lever and twist it and then push it back in for the toy to work. It just appealed to me as a kid. And it still appeals to me now. And also, like most of the toys in this set, it glows in the dark.
I really love this lineup. I love that it came out for the Halloween season. Real quick, I just want to talk about the commercial if you're good.
I'm very, very good to talk about the commercial.
So it's kind of has this Roger Rabbit-esque vibe to it. There's real people, real scenario here. I actually didn't realize it was a Halloween toy until I watched this commercial, because as soon as the kids come in, Velma, she comes up and is like, those aren't real trick-or-treaters, and pulls the mask off, and it's actually this short old dude underneath it. Really awesome little commercial.
It's good. I mean, that's the other cool thing, right? Is that they're actually in the restaurant. The characters, the Scooby-Doo characters, are in the restaurant. The kids are drinking out of their big kids' cups.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, exactly. It's the Roger Rabbit, where it's just blending the animation and the live action. For the time period, and with it being as short as it is for a commercial, It's very effective, and it's pretty memorable. They do exactly what you want them to do in a Scooby-Doo commercial. They do the face reveal, like you said, and it's got the right spirit of the cartoon.
Yeah, it did. It's good. Good pick, man. I love this. This is giving me all the willpower to watch that fucking movie, finally.
Now you can get all of Scooby-Doo's friends in your box of Scooby-Doo fruit snacks, free with 2 tokens from specially marked boxes of French Toast Crunch. Huh? Oh, and Scooby-Doo, too.
All right, so we're going to go to 1998, the Betty Crocker Scooby-Doo shaped fruit snacks. You know what I'm talking about?
How could I not, really? I mean, that is one of, if not the, for me and for my generation, I'd say the most iconic lunchbox snack.
Oh, yeah.
It just gained a traction that not many snacks get to. It hit a status that all other snacks wish that they could.
Yeah.
You know, I think its biggest competitor were Gushers, and quite frankly, Gushers, they were a little scared, I think, of the Scooby-Doo snacks.
For all the right reasons. So each one was shaped like one of the mystery gang, and then there was one that was the mystery mobile, mystery wagon, whatever you want to call it.
The mystery machine.
The mystery machine. Okay, yeah. If there was a beauty pageant for fruit snacks, this would undoubtedly be my Miss Universe. How beautiful are they, man? They're perfect. Sorry to Shark Bites and Farley's TMNT fruit snacks, and which I loved, and I loved pretty much any fruit snack that you would put in front of my face as a kid, but these ones were at the absolute top of my list.
Yeah, these are the belle of the ball, the prize pig, if you will. It's funny, right? Because back then, the fruit snack conglomerate, I almost said cartel, which I'm sure they are
probably,
a little bit. Yeah. They were all pretty good at representing the shapes that they were supposed to be, the characters or whatever. But it wasn't uncommon to get some smushed, mangled mess every now and then where, it was a little harder to make out what, these were supposed to look like. But that was never the case with these Scooby-Doo fruit snacks. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
They looked the best, and they always seemed to hold up the best as well. Like, I could open that pack, and there was no guessing if that was Fred or Velma. I knew exactly who it was supposed to be every single time.
Yeah, unmistakable. You knew if it was the mystery machine. Is that what it is?
Well, maybe not you, but everybody else did.
Oh, shit. So I mentioned Shark Bites a little bit earlier here. These, similar to Shark Bites, had that solid matte colored one, which happened to be, in this case, the Scooby-Doo, which was an all blue colored matte fruit snack.
Yeah, the holy grail of opaque gummies.
Yeah, the crown
absolutely.
jewel.
It was always like the talk of the town. You know how when you're growing up, there's different like little lies that float around and like myths, legends, if you will, around like your school and your schoolyard. And it's some kid making something up. It was like, well, one time I got a strawberry eclair ice cream bar, but actually the one that I got, it was blueberry crumble. And you're like, no, it wasn't. He was like, yeah, I did. I really had it. Or like there was that one girl who I used to have, and she was like, I have a game girl at home. And I was like, no, you don't. She's like, yes, I do, and it's pink. And I'm like, no, you don't. That's a lie.
You don't. Yeah.
To me, the one that was always like the most believable, but I still didn't want to believe those kids, was like, I got more than one of those blue Scooby-Doo fruit snacks in my Scooby-Doo snack pack. It's like, no, you didn't. He's like, yeah, I actually one time opened it and I got 3. It was like, no, you didn't. There's no way.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because recently I purchased the box, for one, just the box, an empty flattened box, which looks beautiful. It's in great condition. I also purchased, I think last year or the year before, an unopened pack of the original 1998 snacks. And I anticipated opening them for a little photo op for the Instagram, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it if there was like no blue ones in there, which is an absolute possibility. This happened to me on at least 5 occasions, maybe.
It felt like they were so hard to come by. And I think it makes a lot of sense with the amount of collectors that I've seen that were bred out of that generation. Because when you're actively collecting food, you know, like, and you don't even realize that you're collecting food, you've got like chase pieces in your gummies at lunchtime.
Yeah.
How could it do anything other than, you know, turn you into a collector in your adulthood?
There's this really awesome tattoo floating around online right now. It's a packet of these, and it's opened up, and there's a couple of the other ones are in there, but there's 3 Scooby-Doo blue ones in it. And like all the comments are like unrealistic, not true, fake news. Like, it's just so golden that we all have this collective experience with these fucking fruit snacks. And I miss them.
Zoink, Scoob! Who's there? Who's where? Like every coward for himself? Yeah, re-roo. It's only a phone call.
Okay, Grimey, I mentioned earlier that we were going to get weird now with my second pick. Are you ready to get weird?
I'm down to clown.
I'm sure everybody who's listening right now, they heard that segue because you inevitably picked an audio clip, and there is no context to the audio clip that they just heard to break up our segments here. So let me explain to you what you just heard, because this is going to be hard to wrap your mind around. You're going to say, Derek, what are you doing? Just stick with me on this one, okay? Again, from the year 2000, so both of my picks are from the year 2000, I am choosing the Scooby-Doo telephone. It's a landline telephone. It's a novelty telephone. It's animated. It moves. It talks. It's everything I ever wanted when I was a child. And now that I'm 30 going on 31 years old.
When you originally told me you were picking this, I didn't see the photo. I just saw the text message. So I went looking, and I gotta say it's a little bit different than I anticipated. When I think novelty phones, it's usually like the old Garfield phone and the football phone from Sports Illustrated, or like the burger phone. This is much less a phone and more like a diorama that occasionally rings.
Yes. Okay, exactly. So I'm glad that you mentioned those other novelty phones, because I did have a note here. I was going to touch on them because, you know, anybody who was growing up in that time period, late 80s into the early 90s, novelty phones really started taking off.
Oh yeah.
But there are
all the rage.
2 distinct eras of novelty phones. So, like what you mentioned, the hamburger phone, the Sports Illustrated football phone that Garth is waiting for and waiting for and waiting for in Wayne's World 2. I guess the Garfield phone, it's a little more ornate, but I'd still consider that part of the first wave of simple novelty phones. Right around the time I was getting into kindergarten, I remember a few different family members of mine getting what I'm calling the ultra luxury deluxe make your dinner and pay your bills novelty phones. Like, they will do
Rolls Royce.
Yeah, the Rolls Royce. They will do everything under the sun. And what I include here is there's a Mickey Mouse phone that you can look up, and he does the same thing. I believe he's a little animated. His eyes might open and close, and he talks when the phone is ringing.
Oh, shit.
There's, if I'm remembering correctly, I think you have it. It's maybe a little less deluxe, but there's that Cool Spot phone.
This one right here?
That's the one. So he might not dance around and sing, but he's big. He's a piece. He's just sculpted beauty and giant, you know? And then there's this Scooby-Doo telephone, which this is really the Rolls Royce of all the telephones. Like you mentioned, this, I mean, let me just sort of describe it for you folks. So it's Shaggy and Scooby, and before I go any further, my uncle had this phone growing up.
Of course he did.
Good
Why the
old
fuck
Uncle
wouldn't your
DJ.
uncle have this phone? Of course he did. I love it.
He called me up. I was at his house one day. He's like, you got to check this thing out. And so I'm standing there in awe of this telephone. And before it even turns on, it's got Shaggy holding Scooby in their classic I'm terrified, hold me pose. And from what I remember, this is probably close to a foot tall. Like, it's big,
man.
It's big, and it's really a very detailed sculpt. Like, they look just like they jumped out of the cartoon, like from your TV onto this telephone. They're standing in a cemetery. You know, to their left, there's this spooky owl, and to their right, there's a tombstone with, I believe it's a vulture on it. And when it starts ringing, things are lighting up. So the owl's eyes glow red, and the vulture's eyes glow red, and the owl's head spins from left to right. It hoots, and it makes the spooky sounds. But best of all, Shaggy and Scooby are scared of the phone ringing. That's the whole shtick. So their heads are moving left and right, and they're talking to each other. Hey, man, oh my God, the phone's ringing. What's that noise? I don't know, you know?
And what I love about it, the contrast. So, like, you have Scooby and Shaggy in the center, and they're brightly colored. Shaggy has his classic green shirt and brown pants, and then, you know, Scooby-Doo, he has his blue collar around his neck. The rest of this, I mean, it looks like they're sitting on like a fucking a Spawn toy diorama. That looks so good.
It's part Spawn toy, but depending on the lighting that you can get on this, you can actually pick out hints of purples and deep blues. And what it actually does is it makes it look like a classic painted background from a Scooby-Doo episode. So it looks like they're standing in context in the show. And this thing is just so incredibly well done that out of all of the different Scooby-Doo toys and tie-ins, figures, sculptures, this is just one of the best. And it just so happens to be a telephone. So I know that it's weird that I'm talking about a phone, but like the phone is the least important mechanism here.
This is a straight up conversational piece. You don't even need the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And to cap this off, going back to my uncle, this was back, he was living in an apartment, and it was mostly bachelor pad at that point. And, he had this phone, and it was his functional phone, mind you. So he decided to hook this up. This was his landline at this point.
He's like picking up important business calls on it. So.
Yes. You'll have to speak up. I'm wearing a towel.
Yeah.
And this was next to, I'll never forget this. He had a couple turtles that he lied to a pet store to obtain, by the way. These were turtles that were reserved, supposedly, only for classrooms. And he was like, well, I'm a teacher.
Educational use.
Yeah. So it was positioned next to his big old turtle tank. So there was a couple turtles sitting next to this Scooby-Doo telephone. And to kindergarten me, that was the coolest setup in the world, man. I was like, so you're telling me I can answer my phone calls with Scooby-Doo and Shaggy watching over me as my turtles sit there chilling under under their heat lamp? This is great. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah, a very 2000s vibe.
At approximately 1,400 hours, state and federal authorities uncovered a duffel bag in the woods. Said bag contains 24 hours of Scooby-Doo episodes.
Excuse me, what episodes? The Spacey Space Kook? Which is which?
Yes, all of them.
Will you be releasing them to the public?
We'll be showing them in a marathon type situation.
What about the whereabouts of the kids? Where are the kids?
I can't discuss that at this time. You'll just have to watch the marathon. No more questions.
Hey, excuse me, over here. Where are the kids? The public has a right to know.
Were there animals in the van?
So there's this very noticeable shift between 1998 and 1999 with what Scooby-Doo and the gang were starting to run into. Prior to 1998, the monsters were all people in disguises, right? Criminals, basically, disguised as monsters. So then we get Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island in September, I think, of 1998, where we see Scooby and the gang run into actual monsters, paranormal activity, different things that hadn't already previously happened. We also get Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost in October of 1999. Both of these films, which I kind of felt pushed the limits of the franchise just a little bit, but there was one more that I felt absolutely pushed the fucking boundaries. That brings me to this little TV Halloween special that aired, I think it was October. It was Halloween, October 31st, 1999. on Cartoon Network called The Scooby-Doo Project.
What a pick this is. It's one that I didn't know even existed until a few years ago, when I was actually hearing murmurings on the interwebs and in our circles, like, hey, does anyone remember that weird Scooby-Doo spoof on Blair Witch Project? And I was like, well, that can't be real, right? Like, was this a fan project or something? And they're like, no. In 1999, on Halloween night on Cartoon Network, you could watch it in mini installments in between the episodes of a Scooby-Doo marathon. And it was real. They made a spoof on the Blair Witch Project. Now, it took me by surprise that something like this, A, existed in any official capacity, and B, that I hadn't heard about it for years and years and years after its release.
I remember actually watching it. I watched this marathon, and before that, there was all kinds of little teasers kind of amping you up for this Halloween marathon. And I actually remember seeing these after this was all done and over with. Like, it was on Cartoon Network for quite a bit of time after it was already said and done. Just like little snippets and stuff. So to amp it up the first couple of days before, or, maybe it was a week, or maybe it was just the day before, you get all these slow motion video shots of police in a precinct or whatever, and they're kind of going through all these little things on a table that they're investigating. There's like a pile of Scooby snacks and a ton of just tapes and stuff really playing up on this Blair Witch Project stuff, and like it's all in black and white. And it's creepy. There's a lot of this sound effect they use on the Blair Witch where it sounds kind of like there's breathing. Like this really weird machine kind of breathing. There's no noise except that. And the slow motion of these police investigating. It's kind of unsettling.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even as an adult, so I guess before we go any further, this is from a lot of different people. It seems like working together, sourcing all of the bits and pieces to compile this into one full experience for you. It's sitting on YouTube right now. So these little promos that you're talking about, they do show them, and specifically they're at the end of the one that I watched. And knowing that Cartoon Network is intended for kids, I can't imagine a few days before Halloween being well aware at this time of Blair Witch Project. And you're probably in the age range where Blair Witch is not something that you should be seeing, but you've heard rumblings about how it's like the scariest movie. It might even be real, and that Blair Witch might be a real, woman in the woods, So that, in and of itself, that seed has been planted in your little young mind, so you're already probably a little afraid of it. And now all of a sudden, your safe space, Cartoon Network, is doing a spoof of it that doesn't feel like a spoof. Like, it doesn't feel very funny yet. Yeah. It's just some found footage police procedural with heavy breathing. It's just like, what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think I was 10 when I watched the Blair Witch Project. I watched it already. Oh, and I was like, I was so terrified of this movie when it first came out. People were really hyping it up. It was this new found footage movie, like something that really hasn't been done before. And people, like you said, they were saying it was real. And like a lot of people in my little town, this is really before a lot of people in that town had the internet and computers and stuff. People believed that to the fullest extent, including my family. This was actually the only thing that got me out of feeling afraid of the Blair Witch Project.
Well, that's see, it would have had the opposite effect on me. It was like, well, this is the kid version, but I don't know. At least the promos, I'll say. The promos, if I had seen those back then, I would have went running out of the room. I wouldn't have slept for a few days after seeing those promos.
Don't get me wrong, they were unsettling, but like I was actively watching Scooby-Doo 24/7 all the time. So like seeing my favorite characters, spoof this whole movie was just gold. I stayed up, watched the entire thing. I fell in love with it. It was amazing.
I did mention this was my first time ever dipping into it, because I had heard rumblings, but I never actually committed the time to sit down and watch this. So it's about a half an hour long. I don't regret watching this. I really quite enjoyed it, but there are some things that I was a little nitpicky on. going through it. The thing that I will praise it for is I don't know how they did that back then, where they inserted 2D animation over live action video the way that they did, because they really did make it look like it was found footage. So I know how you would do it now with modern editing techniques, but back then that seems like a bit of witchcraft all on its own, to see Shaggy and Scooby standing in the woods, but it looks like they're actually there. That's mind-blowing.
We mentioned Roger Rabbit earlier today. This is Roger Rabbit on steroids. They took this to the next level.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And the thing that's even crazier is I think you kind of get the sense that this was a super low-budget outing, right? It kind of just felt like these interns had this idea at Cartoon Network, so they took their own personal video camera and just started doing it. And then they figured out how they were going to animate around it afterwards. But even with it being what I assume to be a fairly low-budget endeavor, the results speak for themselves. Like, they look great. I mean, the animation, you know, at times it's a little choppy, but it's nothing that's too distracting. It all is pretty cohesive and comes together really well. The only thing that I found really distracting is our Shaggy and Scooby throughout this whole ordeal. Not my favorite iterations of the character. That's all I can really say in a nice way.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it didn't bother me much, but listening back to it now, I'm like, they just seem kind of off.
And it's like, it's almost exhausting to listen to Shaggy in this one, because sometimes it sounds right, but most of the time it just sounds like Shaggy is yelling the whole time.
Yeah, it's very forced.
It's being very forced. And I know you actually had a bigger gripe with the Scooby voice.
Scooby at times just really sounds like a horrible parody. It's like, I don't know what's going on here with this. But then, again, at other times, it's like, oh, this is spot on Scooby. Like, what the fuck happened? There's so many inconsistencies with, in my opinion, both of them.
But I guess that's sort of what makes it a little bit more interesting, is like, you could almost frame it in a way where they don't sound perfect, but they are in the real world, and they do acknowledge that they're part of a TV show and that they have tropes. So like, they're actively acknowledging that they are cartoon characters. And you could almost trick yourself into thinking that like maybe their voices are off because they don't know when to drop the shtick. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
Well, we've been in the woods for 7 days. We're tired. We don't sound like we normally do because we're lost and we're scared. We don't know what's going on.
Yeah, it's a very weird way of humanizing the characters. It's effective, though. I think my favorite thing about it is how much of a dick every single character is in this whole thing. Like, if you've ever watched those really funny dubbed Scooby-Doo little shorts that you find everywhere on social media right now, there's so many of them where like they're all pretty much giving it to Velma. This feels a lot like that.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, poor Velma in this one, by the way. The whole gang just starts completely shitting on her at a certain point. And it feels very unwarranted. Like, they all really do turn into just dickheads at a certain point. And it's, again, not unwarranted. I understand why they're doing it. These characters are supposed to be lost and afraid in the woods. They don't know where they're going. And Velma is trying to be the only person acting like she knows the way out of there. So, of course, she's kind of the scapegoat for the whole crew. But that doesn't change the fact that they are just awful most of the time. Mm-hmm. To each other and to her specifically.
So there's one portion that kind of got me a little bit while I'm watching it back as an adult. I feel like reality is really setting in with Fred, and he's got like that 5 o'clock shadow, and he's like all curled up. Isn't that kind of creepypasta too? Like, isn't that kind of like, wow, we're seeing our favorite characters in like real peril, and they look strung the fuck out.
Well, it's funny because that is really the only time that in this short where it really any of those characters look super out of place. And
Yeah.
he looks crazed. He looks like dehydrated. Like you said, he's got a crazy 5 o'clock shadow. He just looks like a fucked up version of Fred. And you are so not expecting to see that.
No.
There are other points where other characters get a little frazzled here and there. Like at one point, Daphne is freaking out because she rips her dress, pulls her tights, and breaks a nail. But she still ultimately looks like Daphne. She's just mad because she's a little scratched up. But yeah, Fred in that moment, he looks like a different character. We have never seen Fred that way before, and we will never see him again that way. He's in a sad state of affairs there.
Yeah. I guess to cap this one off, I'll say I really, really do enjoy this entire thing. And apparently a lot of other people did, because it won an Annie Award. I don't know what for exactly, but it won one.
Well, see, that's the thing about this, is I did see that it won an award. And it's so weird to me that this just kind of got buried. Even though it won an award, it's not been embraced on any official scale since it released, other than that. Like, it's not streaming anywhere in any official capacity. We had to rely on the community to come together and take their old VHS recordings and pull those all together for it to be in any sort of a watchable condition, which is thankfully for free and pretty watchable on YouTube. But yeah, for something that was so well received and that people really seemed to like, it's a shame that there is not more embracing of it on, let's say, Warner Brothers side of things.
Yeah, that's true. And to your point, even with the fans, like, I forgot about this. Like I said, I watched this. I watched every last bit of this when I was a kid, and I ate it right up. I don't know how I forgot all about this. I just don't. It doesn't make any sense to me. Usually, stuff like this, I remember, and I'm the one reminding people. This is one of them things that caught me off guard. I was like, fuck. Oh my God, I remember this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That's what I said. I didn't even know that it existed. So you missed it that first year, and then it just kind of fell off the face of the earth.
So that was the Scooby-Doo project. You can watch it right now. It's on YouTube, as we mentioned. Make sure you do. It's a wild little ride. I mean, actually, it's not even that short. It's like you said, probably 25 to 30-ish minutes. Give it a whirl. Let us know what you think about it.
Let's split up. They're always saying it. Well, I, for one, am sick of splitting up. It never helps, and I'm always getting stuck with Velma. Why are Fred and Daphne always heading off together anyway? I'm so hungry.
That was a nice little foray into Scooby-Doo for our first Leftover Pizza Bites episode. That was a lot of fun. It's been a long time coming. But, unfortunately, that is about all the time we have for this episode. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in and listening.
And while this show may be over, the fun is just beginning, Grimey. Head over to our Facebook group, The Leftover Pizza Club, and join in on the discussion.
That's right. We post a discussion thread for each new episode so you can chime in with other listeners and talk about your favorite episodes, bits, and picks.
Or you can even tear us a new one.
As long as it's constructive and civil, it's fair game.
And if you just can't get enough of us, you can always check us out on Instagram and Threads at Leftover Pizza Podcast. And you can find us on Twitter or X at Leftover Pizza Club. That's LFTOVR Pizza Club.
And if you're looking to read some nostalgic content, you can always check out our blog, leftoverpizzaclub.com. Listen, we just unleashed the big Halloween celebration up there, folks. Go check it out. Put a lot of time into it. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. There's a lot more stuff coming up there very, very soon. Do yourself a favor, check it out.
Yeah, and make sure that you're checking back daily, because not only does Grimey write a lot of good stuff, a lot of good articles, but we also have a Halloween journal that we update pretty frequently, sometimes even every day, depending on how frequently we get out and do things. So worth checking in as much as you possibly can. So leftoverpizzaclub.com for that. But lastly, wherever you're listening to us, be sure to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. All that stuff helps us a great deal, and we appreciate it very, very much.
Zoink, Scoob. When they told me fixin', I thought they meant fixins like on a sandwich. Raggy, where are my resticles?